And joining me now on the Boardwalk Honda hotline, the radio call for Villanova basketball is the one and only Ryan Fannon. The day of the big game. Ryan, how's San Antonio treating you?
I tell you what, it's a tremendous Final Four town. I was here in '08 when Mario Chalmers hit the incredible shot when Kansas beat Memphis. You know, the Final Four has been here in '98 when Kentucky and Utah squared off, and then '04 when Emeka Okafor, Ben Gordon, and UConn beat Georgia Tech. But that game here in '08, a decade ago, when Bill Self won his first title, that was a classic, a come from behind, final 2 minutes. Chalmers hit that shot to go to overtime, and Kansas would win it. And I remember thinking, of all the Final Four towns that I've been to, San Antonio clearly was the best. The River Walk, you can actually walk to the Alamo Dome from the River Walk. Of the setting here, the weather, the food, I really think it's the best Final Four town in America.
You know, Villanova, it's interesting because this team, they've just been so consistent this year, Ryan. I mean, you've seen them from beginning to end. To me, it's more than just Brunson and Bridges and all these guys. It's the fact that they haven't just played well, but they've bought into what Jay Wright is coaching and preaching. And it feels like every game there's a guy stepping up. You know, one game it may be Spellman, another game it may be Booth. It seems like everybody on this team has had a game where they have had an impact.
You look at the fact that 6 Villanova players average in double figures. I remember about a month and a half into this season, I just was convinced that this was the most high-powered, high-octane offense, I think, in Villanova basketball history. And then the injury bug hit, and they weren't playing the level defensively that Coach Wright wanted them to. But I really just think everything changed on February 28th when Villanova showed up at Seton Hall. They had given up 89 points 4 days earlier in an overtime loss at Creighton. And Jay really was able to get the guys together and say, look, you've had an amazing year, but if we're truly going to reach our potential, we have to improve as a defensive team. We have to bring it every night at the defensive end. And we all know in the tournament, you've got to have that one game. You've got to survive if you're ever going to win 4 and get to a Final Four, or 6 and win a national championship, by not shooting well. And that's exactly what happened in the Texas Tech game in the regional final. Villanova shoots 33%, but wins by 12 because they hammered Texas Tech on the glass, 51-33, and they held Texas Tech to 33% shooting. And if Villanova had not grown defensively the way they did in the last 3 weeks, they wouldn't be here right now. They're a complete team now.
What does it say about Jay Wright that Josh Hart stayed longer? Jalen Brunson has stayed longer. Bridges has stayed longer. A lot of these guys who could have gone pro sooner have stayed an extra year or two. What does that say about Jay Wright with these guys?
Well, I think, first of all, he does an incredible job. When he recruits players, he talks about the culture that's at Villanova, where you're coming here to be part of something bigger than yourselves. You know, if you want to come here, you've got to want to be here. You've got to want to be part of something special. So if you recruit that way, when the kids get there, they're able to come in and say, okay, this isn't about me. I don't have a starting spot guaranteed. I mean, Jay does nothing about that. He says, if you want to be part of this, come. But make sure you want to be part of it. And it sounds subtle, but it's huge, because how many times guys go to programs and they're like, I'm the starting point guard. I'm the man. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Jay Wright makes sure that he sets that tone before they ever accept a scholarship, so that when they get there, it's about the name on the front of the jersey, not their name on the back of their jersey.
Who is the guy versus Kansas do you think, if this guy steps up and has a big game, a guy that's not Jalen Brunson or Bridges, is there a guy, a third guy on this team that you look at and say, if that guy steps up, that guy is going to change this game altogether versus Kansas?
I think it's the 5 matchup at Omari Spellman, our starting center, going against Azubuike, because Azubuike's coming off the knee injury, and he's a beast down low at 7 feet. And, you know, he gets it with his soft hands. He can score pretty solidly in the low blocks. So I think Kansas wants to get Spellman in foul trouble. I think that would be huge from Kansas' point of view. But in terms of that guy for Villanova, Spellman shoots 44% from three-point range, and Azubuike is going to have trouble chasing him out on the perimeter. I'm just really intrigued by this matchup. Spellman has hurt a lot of teams knocking down that three as a stretch five for Villanova. So I think that center matchup is one to watch today for sure with Udoka Azubuike and Omari Spellman.
Another matchup today is obviously the two head guards, Brunson versus Graham. Brunson named the AP Player of the Year, having another phenomenal season. But every time you hear him talk, he's so focused on the team. He's so focused on the mission at hand. He's so focused on what he has to do in the upcoming game. And to me, when you see a guy his age with his kind of maturity, and he had it from day one, even when he was just a freshman on this team, he has the maturity, he has the moxie, he has the focus that I think really makes him such a great player.
He does. I mean, how many guys out there at this level, at the college level, are this mature, are able to truly, I mean, it's easy sometimes to say, oh, yeah, this guy knows how to win. He knows when to shoot, when to pass. But, I mean, literally, you watch Brunson, Chris Mack, the former coach of Xavier that's now taken the Louisville job in the last several days, he had a great quote when he said, if you took off his face, there'd be wires behind it, because he's literally like that good about when you watch him, he just doesn't make hardly any mistakes. He leads. He makes the right play at the right time. He scores when he has to. He sets up his teammates. He is an absolute coach on the floor. Jay Wright said he's the most mature guy in the program, including the coaches. I mean, this is a guy that has a chance to win 2 national championships in 3 years. And he is the only one on this team now that started in the national championship game. But Booth, remember, scored 20 in the title game against Carolina. Bridges was part of that 8-man rotation. So Kansas, that has not been here since 2012, they have not had the ability to experience what 3 players that are big leaders on this Villanova team experienced 2 years ago. And hopefully that experience will pay big dividends tonight.
Where does Brunson rank for you in the history of Villanova guards? Because, you know, we know that guys like Kyle Lowry have come out of the program and go on the pros, but there's been a lot of good guards, not just in the Jay Wright era, but even before Jay Wright, who have come through Villanova. So where do you think, in your mind, seeing Villanova for all these years, where does Brunson stand among the Villanova great guards?
I mean, I struggle with this so much because when I was at school, Kittles was there, and then Randy Foye and Scotty Reynolds and Alan Ray, Randy Foye, Ryan Arcidiacono. You know, Josh Hart could play small forward or guard. I mean, there's been so many great ones. It's almost impossible. But often what I try to do when I think about that question is who was able to lead their team to greatness? And Arcidiacono was, I think, one of the greatest, if not the greatest leader of all time, the way he was 2 years ago as a senior. But now that Brunson has been a starter on 2 Final Four teams, if Villanova is fortunate enough to win the national championship in 2 days from now, I would have to say Brunson would be that guy, because right now his NCAA tournament record is 11-1, and in 3 years it would be 13-1 if Villanova wins the national championship this year. That would be hard not to say he was the greatest guard in Villanova history should that happen here Monday night in San Antonio.
And Ryan Fannon will call the game tonight for Villanova Radio. Of course, you can hear the action from Westwood One on 97.3 ESPN tonight. Coverage begins at 4:30 p.m. Ryan, before I let you go, and I appreciate you joining us this afternoon on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. I know Billy Schweim missed talking to you today, but you know, you think about this game tonight. What is the thing that stands out most to you? What is the element about Villanova tonight that you say, if this happens, there is no way Kansas is stopping this train?
I just think Villanova, because I think Villanova's slightly better defensively than Kansas, and I think Villanova's slightly better offensively than Kansas. But Kansas has got that firepower. I mean, these two teams shoot the three so well. Villanova makes 11.5 threes a game. Kansas makes 10 threes a game. I think what you can't have in this game is like a 5 to 6 differential on the threes. If Kansas makes 13 threes and Villanova makes 8, that kind of dynamic would scare me, or 15 to 10. I just think if Villanova does not let Kansas outscore them considerably from the three-point line, I think Villanova will be in good shape in this game because of all the other things. I think Villanova also is a better free throw shooting team, clearly, than Kansas. Kansas has 2 of their top 8 players that struggle miserably from the free throw line. You have to watch that coming down the stretch in both Marcus Garrett and Udoka Azubuike, who really, really struggle there. And the depth of Kansas. I think Villanova has more quality depth than Kansas off the bench as well. A couple other things to watch there, but the three-point analogy was the one I think that stands out the most, that, Villanova just can't give up tons of threes because, wow, can Kansas drill the long ball just like Villanova can.
The radio voice of the Villanova Wildcats, Ryan Fannon. Appreciate you joining me this afternoon. Like I said, I know Billy didn't get a chance to talk to you, but at least we got you on before the game tonight. Best of luck to the Wildcats tonight, and we hope to see them raising a championship after Monday.
Hey, great being with you today, and go Cats. Have a great one.